but very effective. Like, if you're sitting there with your Reinhardt and you go up against a Felicia with, like, 45 res or something like that, I'm not sure how high you can get it, but think, Inez's A skill, plus res, I don't know, what else? It would get pretty high. Yeah. Very high.
I think I figured out that her attack can get over 40.
Wow, a dagger user. The 40 yeah, that says a lot about dagger users,
With a, I think that was with a, can't remember what dagger it is, Seashell. That's it, Seashell. Plus attack boon, life and death, attack seal, I think she can break 40.
Yeah, I mean, the only difference, if you think about it, between a dagger user and a bow user, unsurprisingly, is the weapon they use. But, I know, that sounds dumb. But as soon as you get a dagger that has good might and a good effect, I think they're going to become a lot stronger. It may require another dagger user coming out that doesn't have gimped attack and really high speed, but I mean, I would consider archers some of the best in the game, and I think Bravebow does a lot to sort of contribute to that.
I think the underlying problem is that daggers, I should say, have lower might in order to balance out their debuffing effects.
Yeah.
But debuffing doesn't matter because everything just gets one-shotted.
Yeah, that's another good point.
So it's kind of just lower might for no reason. Even the poison dagger actually debuffs foes.
Really? Does it?
Just that...
This goes to show how much I've used dagger users, huh?
So, I mean, 5 might, the best dagger has got 5 might, really? I mean, the best bow has got 7 might. I think it's all debatable.
Yeah, I mean,
basically.
Brave Bow versus Fire Sweet Bow kind of comes down to player preference. I prefer Brave Bow personally,
and as well.
But I mean, I would say that's something where Gamepedia is a lot better than us in tier list sort of considerations. I would maybe think we don't consider Fire Sweep weapons enough. Maybe that's because there's only a bow and a lance, as far as memory serves right now. But I mean, as soon as we get the axe and the sword, I think there's a lot of argument for taking another look at the list and saying, yeah, this unit can go up because they're a great fire sweeper, I'm sure they'll agree that we don't give enough value to units that are great sweepers. But hey. I'm not sure if I've actually said this yet, but my main job at Gamepress is managing the tier list page. That's not so much like I'm the one that makes all the decisions, but I'm the one that's updating the page and putting all the adjustments in and stuff like that. I mean, I've spent so much time with this tier list, and I still don't agree with some things, like, they're so subjective. It's never going to be, a flawless, everyone can agree with every placement list. But every update we do, we try and fix one more placement, or one more, like, description, or, stuff like that. And the further along it goes in the game's lifetime, I think it's just going to get a little bit better each time. Never going to be perfect. At least I don't think so. If it is, then great. That's wonderful for us.
Or we'll keep introducing units like Alencia, who is really hard to tier.
Yeah.
Because...
trust, they'll do that.
Brave Ike exists, and Brave Ike is not a good time for most variants of Alencia. And, yeah...
I don't know. I'm skeptical about that argument.
Yeah, what we're saying is that it's complicated. It is really complicated.
Between us,
yeah.
even.
I know the PD guys talked about it. When they were on here, they said they spent, I think, over 100 hours on their tier list, which is just...
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I could put the amount of time we discuss onto ours into a numerical figure like that, but, I mean, we're always talking about units, new and old. The skills is another thing to consider, because, I mean, Nephany is a great example, because, sure, you've got Nephany who's 35 speed, 34 defense, pretty good all-rounder, great duelist, etc. But then it's like, hang on, we've also now got the Slaying Lance Plus in the game, and we've got Wrath in the game. So do we need to look at Lynn's placement, because she's got Solcati for low health stuff? Or do we need to look at Lucas's placement was another good one, because Slaying Lance Plus is a direct upgrade, and it lets him do his role better. There's just so many things to consider with every update that there's always going to be a few things that are very contentious.
Wrath is actually a really good skill example to bring up, because it's only available on certain types of units. So you introduce Wrath into the game, and suddenly users of brave weapons that can get Wrath can actually get their Moonbow every turn, which is something really great. And the Flyers, the Cavalry don't get access to that. Although admittedly, I think hit and run's pretty good. So new skills do change things quite a lot, you know.
I just want to interject real fast for the intelligent system spy that I know is listening. On those trailers for characters, you really do need to start putting what skills can be inherited by what classes, because waiting for someone to summon it and try to put it on Reinhardt is...
I feel really bad for that guy with his 4 Nephites, and he's sitting there with, like, all that Wrath fodder, and he can't put it on Reinhardt. Oh, boo-hoo. Yeah. Look, I'm angry.
I mean,
okay?
I don't feel sorry for that guy just because it's Reinhardt, but... And also, how do you get 4 Nephites? Wow. How? By my maths, that means he must have 20 Oscars, because it's 5 Oscars to 1 Nephany. That's the ratio.
Yeah.
That's the conversion rate on.
God, imagine that. But yeah, to sort of wrap up on tier list discussion, I guess. We're never going to get it perfect right, but we do our best. It's really uplifting to see that a lot of people are sort of like saying, yeah, you have a good list. Because, you know, that's what drives us forward. We just want to make good content at the end of the day. And, you know, sure, we're not going to... There's always going to be a few contentious placements. We sort of look at those placements every update we do. I can't remember who it is, but we've had a few people saying, like, Dothier and Celica should be tier 1, or Katarina should be tier 3, or Xander should be tier 3. You know, a lot of it will be devil's advocate.
Who said Katarina tier 3?
I got a problem here.
Who said that?
Yeah, I know. Like, it's... A lot of people like playing devil's advocate, you know? Me in particular. I love doing that. It's like, so what if Valencia were tier 1? And we did this, you know? Like, it's the kind of discussion you have to have. Because if nobody brings it up, then it's never going to happen. Valencia's an interesting one. Like, you know, out of the most recent units to come out. But yeah, I mean, unless there's anything else you want to add regarding our tier list or any questions.
Where did you guys put Camus?
Camus is in tier 2. Though I did see one of the other guys mention maybe we drop him down to tier 3. So that's going to be a discussion that happens at some point.
When I was talking to the Gamepedia guys, they were making a lot of sense when they were talking about how Camus is kind of not very good.
I actually read that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with... I don't know if you read the exact same thing I read, but I did read some arguments from them, and I pretty much agree with them, to be perfectly honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in regards to our own tier list, we need to constantly remind ourselves that we, in this main inheritance tier list, we are not considering cavalry buffs, for example. And I think that's one of Camus's big sort of pros. He becomes a lot better if you're willing to give him a hone or fortify cavalry buff. Because distant counter suddenly becomes a lot more useful, because his res stat is workable. Well, I say workable, his base like 17.
Everything's workable.
Not as bad, should we say. Yeah. But, you know, those kinds of buffs mean that it's a lot easier to make that kind of thing happen. Obviously, Xander and Camus, distant counter is mainly a plus against archers. But with that said, archers are very strong. I would argue archers are some of the strongest units in the game right now. You know, Bridal Cordelia, Brave Lynn, even Leon and Inez are great units.
I do think that cavalry tends to be more offensively focused and better suited for offense, just with their mobility.
Yeah, I would say out of all the class type teams, all of them but armor are very offense focused. So yeah, regarding Camus, which was the original point, I would say there's a strong argument for tier 3, and I think sort of my first impression would be yeah, he needs to drop down. But with that said, we do have a cavalry tier list that considers his role in a cavalry team, and I imagine he does a lot better there. I think right now we've got him in tier 1, though now that I think about it, that might be a tier 2 argument as well, with new units like Bravelyn coming out and fighting for that position. You know, why use a melee lance user when you can use Reinhardt? And why use Xander as a melee sword unit that's very defense focused when you can use Brave Roy, who has great offensive stats and can, you know, kill any enemy before they attack him. So yeah, that's a bit of our reasoning on that.
Okay.
Any other placements you wanted to talk about?
Not so much placements, but I just wanted to sort of point out that our tier list is an arena tier list, and when we did our rankings, we all got we all wrote a little blurb to sort of go along with the ranking, and my blurb basically said, take everything with a grain of salt, and the arena is not the be-all, end-all content of this game. It's actually something that I think that as a community, we may be too focused perhaps around the arena when you've got other game modes. Like Raven Tomes are kind of my go-to example, because Raven Tomes are generally considered great for PvE content. And I don't want people looking at our tier lists, seeing that Raven Tomes aren't that great and thinking, oh no, I shouldn't invest the time into making this, 5-starring this Raven Tome unit, blah blah blah. That's absolutely not the case. There's plenty of units that aren't necessarily that good in arena, but are actually still great to have around. So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on Frobro. I remember you had a discussion on one of your other podcasts regarding are tier lists warranted? Is there a need for them? And it's a very fair point, because really it's a glorified rock paper scissors with archers and other colorless units thrown into the mix. But I think that's where Raven users and those sort of more niche units do get a lot more weight, because it's like, sure, you are always playing rock paper scissors, and there's going to be very few occasions where a red unit can beat a blue unit, unless you're talking like Ryoma versus Reinhardt, in which case it's a no-brainer.
Ryoma wins that one, right?
If he's attacking, sure.
Probably. I haven't calculated it, probably.
But yeah, I mean, we're a big fan of Raven users, to be honest, because they are very reliable against most teams. Most teams will have. I'm trying to think of the best Raven user. Sophia comes to mind, and Sophia is a very good check for units like Bravelyn, Brave Ike, Hector, those sort of green and colorless units that are very popular in a lot of arena teams. And I mean, sure, she's not, like, say, Celica or Brave Roy or Ryoma. She's one of those, or Black Knight, another great example. She's not one of those units that's very blatantly sort of included in every team or has great all-round ability. But she's just a solid pick, Like, 9 times out of 10, Sophia will do very well on a team that has those units like Hector, Brave Ike, the ones I listed before. And, we considered all the other Raven Tome users. A few updates ago, I think, was one where we focused on them in particular. And a lot of them went up to Tier 3, which is like our sort of good unit tier. Like, if something is in Tier 3, it's pretty good. Tier 4 is where you start to get to the more niche sort of, I'm Claire, I use Slaying Lance and Iceberg for all of my damage, Like, that's where it gets a bit more, really, And then Tier 5, don't get me started. Tier 5 is where it's like, you're only using this character because you like them. Tier 5 is the realm where Frobro just wouldn't even consider.
I still want to hear what you guys got on Sonya versus Julia.
Sonya versus Julia, that's an interesting point.
I know what I think.
I mean, both are strong because they check Reinhardt. I don't think there's much disagreement regarding that. I would say Julia probably has the edge, because the Book of Naga means she can check dragon units like Noe, Young Tiki, Faye, and although they're not as common in sort of standard middle range arena play, they're still very strong. I mean, we had Noe in Tier 1 until recently. So she can check those, and she also has the benefit of 9 times out of 10 she's going to be running Green Tonebreaker. And that pretty much fixes her speed stat for any of the matchups against Nino or other Julia or Sonya. With that said, Sonya's still very good.
If you've got a Sonya, you can just use her in place of Julia, pretty much.
Yeah, they fulfill very similar roles. Remind me, Sonya's tome is the one that acts like Rodao. It's like bonus special damage, right?
See, it's funny to hear you guys say that, because, like, I have a plus res Julia, so if you attack into her, she's got, like, 40 res or something. It's actually pretty dumb. So if you put Reinhardt on your team, that's a free win for me.
Yeah.
Or if you put, like, Cecilia on your team, that's a free win. Nino, free wins. Like, you can't use green or blue mages against me in arena because you'll lose.
Yeah.
Julia's, I think, a really good example of a unit that's, I would describe as anti-meta. Like, she's good because of other units that are good. So you've got the metagame definers like I don't know, Reinhardt, and then the units that are good against